This is the Jerry Callahan Show.
All right, we got a new rule on this show, Ironhead. New rule. I want you every morning when we start this show, I need you to stand up and say, "Good morning, General." Or, I don't want to be too pretentious. How about you stand up and say, "Good morning, Captain." Oh, Captain, my Captain. Go ahead, let's do it. Ready? Stand up and don't look me in the eye. Say, "Good morning, Captain."
Good morning, Captain.
That's good. Look down at the ground. Now sit there and don't look at me and don't talk to me. Know your place. I wonder if this story will get legs. Will anyone pick up on this story? It's 5 years old. I've read about it. I've read it, and I've looked to see if it would get any leverage. One of the Trump Twitter accounts picked up on it. It's amazing. And just ask yourself this. What if this were about J.D. Vance? What if this story were not about Kamala Harris, but it were about J.D. Vance? Do you think we might have heard a little bit more about it by now? But they're going to give this a good leaving alone, the mainstream media. But come on, they're going to pretend Kamala Harris is just a nice woman, just a regular gal. She is an abusive tyrant. This is before she was even vice president, before she withdrew from the race in 2019 because everybody hated her and she was getting 1% in the polls. She didn't even make it to Iowa. That's how popular our new Democrat nominee was when she tried to win the nomination on her own 5 years ago. Nobody liked her. Nobody supported her. And I think we know why. She's a really bad person. This is how you know, how you treat the little people. That is how you judge someone's character, how you treat the little people, how you treat people when no one's looking. Well, not many people were looking, but her staff was, her interns were. And this is how she treated the interns. These are like college kids, 20 years old. In fact, one of them wrote a piece for a newspaper, a website called The Union in California, where she's from, and talked about the way she treated people. She told interns, or they told interns, the staff, to not look her in the eye. Do not make eye contact. You're some ideological, wide-eyed kid. You want to go into politics. You're a liberal. You're a Democrat. And you want to work for a senator in California or in D.C., and you're excited. You might even get to meet Kamala Harris. Oh, no, there'll be no meeting Kamala Harris. She didn't treat them like people. They were just people. They were just kids in the way. Here's from the story. Senator Harris vocally throws around F-bombs and other profanity constantly in her berating of staff and others. The staff is in complete fear of her, and she used profanity throughout the day. As Attorney General, Senator Harris instructed her entire staff to stand up every morning when she entered the office and say, "Good morning, General." She instructed them to refer to her as General Harris, because she was Attorney General of the state of California. There's all kinds of stories about interns crying, running out of the office, quitting, and that carried over when she was vice president. She's lost 92% of her staff since the beginning of her term as vice president. She's lost like 4 senior speechwriters because she abuses the little people in her office. This is who is now running for president, and the media will not tell you this. Will they reach out to this intern who told stories about the way she treated him and others, swearing at them, yelling at them, making them cry? This is such a good, liberals, they care about people. They have compassion and decency, and they demand you not look them in the eye. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it every day for the next 98 days. This is the worst candidate for president in American history. This is the worst um, choice. I was going to say she wasn't elected. She was chosen in a coup led by Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries. They chose her, said, she's our candidate. And then they instructed the media to echo their talking points. It is an amazing thing to watch. I know the media is corrupt. I know they're dishonest. I know they're liars. I know they're partisans. I know they hate Trump. But what we're watching unfold before our eyes is so brazen, so dishonest, so despicable that that if we had an honest media, these people would be fired. They're obviously not doing their job. They're obviously they're on the air, they're in print, they're writing for websites for one reason, to help one candidate and hurt the other candidate. That's all they care about at this point. Do they have any dignity, professional dignity? Do they have any pride? No, we've learned they do not. And you can look no further than this latest trend of people in the media and in politics calling J.D. Vance weird. Now, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's effective. I mean, they've gone from calling Trump and Vance tyrants who are a threat to democracy. They've gone from calling them Nazis and dictators to calling them weird. Just weird. But the memo went out. Now, we've told you before, I've gone over this before. There are certain tells, there's certain ways you know someone in the media is in the tank, is getting their marching orders directly from the DNC or the Harris campaign, the Biden campaign. You know, when they say Trump's a threat to democracy, they don't explain why, they don't explain how. They just say it because they were told to say it. It was poll tested. It was they stuck their finger in the air, and they said, "Let's call Trump a threat to democracy." And when you hear someone in the media say that, you know they're nothing but shills. They're nothing but stooges for one candidate. When they say, "Oh, it was an insurrection on January 6th," or they say the election in 2020 was the safest ever, that's a lie. It is impossible for the 2020 election to be the safest ever, because we had all kinds of COVID measures, which made it less safe. We had mail-in ballots for the first time, widespread. You know, we had drop boxes. That made it less safe by definition. So if they say it was the safest ever, they're lying, and they are doing it on behalf of the Biden-Harris team. Now, it's even more brazen. It's even more obvious. If anybody in the media, anybody, calls J.D. Vance weird, that means they are in the tank. They are nothing but messengers for the Harris campaign. That's it. There's no other reason they would come up with this word weird. Let's be honest. J.D. Vance might be the least weird candidate we've ever seen. He might be the least weird guy in D.C. He's a family man. He's got a wife. He's got 3 kids. He served in the Marines. We know his story. He built a business. We've heard him speak. He's not weird. Hell, by D.C. standards, he's the least weird guy I think I've ever seen. And it's coming from people who celebrate drag queens, who think men can have babies. It's coming from people who invited transgender activists to the White House, who showed us their private parts. It's coming from people who hired Sam Brinton and Rachel Levine, from people who defended Hunter Biden. These people want you to think J.D. Vance is weird. That's not going to fly. I mean, I'm glad to hear it. It's not going to be a successful strategy. Nobody thinks J.D. Vance is weird. They're just part of the campaign. That's all. They sent out a memo, they sent an email, and they repeated this ridiculous talking point. It was an amazing thing to watch all across the mainstream media. People who are supposed to be journalists and analysts just absolutely parroting the message from one campaign about the other. As we mentioned yesterday, Grabian, Tom Elliott's site, did a great job of mashing this up, and they counted over the weekend between MSNBC and CNN. They called J.D. Vance or Donald Trump weird 150 times. There's nothing organic about that. They don't believe he's weird. They just think it will help Kamala Harris. Now, I don't think it'll work. Again, they've gone from calling them Nazis to calling them weirdos. That's the new strategy, and they're doing it for a couple reasons. We'll get to the supercut. One, it's preemptive. It's a preemptive strike. You know why? Because Kamala Harris is weird. Kamala Harris is out there on the fringe to average American. She's a weirdo. Their average Americans are repulsed by every single one of her positions. Every one. Open borders, abortion on demand in the third trimester, men in women's sports, you name it. There's nothing mainstream about her. There's nothing moderate about her, and they know it. So before Trump and Vance could call her weird, they decided, let's strike first. Let's call him weird. And they don't really explain why. I mean, he mentioned cat ladies and single women, and that's all they got at this point. That's all they got. They know Vance is a great choice, a great candidate, and they're going to try to portray him as some weirdo because they know they're the weirdos and they want to get out ahead of it. But let's watch this. I know I have no respect for the mainstream media. Nobody does. I mean, they're just clowns. But this is still, even by my low expectations, low standards, this was an incredible thing to watch unfold over a couple of days. She's only been the candidate for a week, and they're already carrying her water and doing their best to cover for her because they know if people know the truth about her, if they know what kind of radical fringe extremist she is, and they know what kind of terrible person she is, how she treats people, they'll be turned off. They'll bail on her, and they can't afford that. They have to stop Trump. Watch this.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's where they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird. It's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, the weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird.
Vance as weird?
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
J.D. Vance, plain weird.
No,
I mean, I don't know if you could read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people.
The other side, they're just weird.
Why are you being so weird? Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
No matter what kind of weird stuff they keep saying.
Trump and Vance are just weird, in addition to being dangerous to democracy.
It's the weird part that's the most engaging.
Whom he addressed as my beautiful Christians, which was super weird.
Weird tech bro, JD Vance.
He's a weird guy.
JD Vance, uneasy and sort of weird.
Frankly, for lack of a better word, that he's weird.
Sarcastic remarks that aren't even funny, and he kind of shows that he can't really deliver a one-liner.
So Sam, weird is the word here.
That is unbelievable. That is a couple of days of a sample of a couple of days from these pathetic lickspittles for the Democrats. He's not weird. Even if he were weird, so what? I mean, that's all you got? That he's weird, that he drinks Mountain Dew and he doesn't laugh? I heard him laugh. It's a normal laugh. He's the most normal guy. He's a family guy. He goes to church. He loves his wife. He loves his mother. He joined the Marines out of high school, and they don't know what to do about him. They don't know what to do with him, but call him weird because he drinks Mountain Dew. And he thinks people should have children. He thinks people should have families. That's the best thing for society. That to them is weird. Now, you don't want to know what they consider not weird? Women for Trump. Women for Kamala, women for Harris. Now, we told you about this yesterday, the new, organization, grassroots outfit, Women for Kamala. Here's one of the leaders of Women for Kamala. His name is Charlotte Clymer. It used to be Charlie Clymer, but then he decided, and he was a big political activist, but he wasn't really, getting any traction. So he decided to grow his hair out, put some lipstick on, put some earrings on, and become Charlotte. And Charlotte is now leading the group Women for Kamala. Charlotte's not a woman. You can see him right there. It's not working, Charlotte. It's really not. We're not buying it. Sorry. But this to those people you just heard, all those people, and by the way, more than half of them are media members, not politicians, not surrogates, official surrogates for the campaign, but media members who are saying J.D. Vance is weird because they were instructed by the DNC and the Harris campaign to say J.D. Vance is weird. J.D. Vance is weird. This guy is not weird. Can we hear from Charlotte?
Good evening, folks. My name is Charlotte Clymer. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a writer and activist, and I am so excited to be part of this historic gathering of women across the country. Now, look, I'm not going to repeat to y'all what the brilliant and eloquent women have stated before me, and nor do I have the eloquence and brilliance of the women who are going to speak over the remainder of the evening. I'm just going to tell y'all a quick story about why I proudly support Vice President Harris.
That's not weird. That's one of the leaders of a group supporting Kamala Harris, and they want you to think that's normal. J.D. Vance, he's the weird one. Donald Trump, he's weird. Good luck with that. I don't think it's going to work. I don't care about the bounce in the polls. I'm not buying it. So far, Kamala Harris has said nothing. She's done no interviews. She's held no press conferences. She is going to do her best to hide, and the media will help her because it worked for Biden 4 years ago, and they're hoping it'll work for her again. Yes, here's another organization of perfectly normal guys, white dudes for Harris. Okay, what if there were white dudes for Trump? What do you think the media would say if there was an organization? And this group has like 200,000 people, including a bunch of celebrities. Jeff Bridges and Mark Hamill are spearheading the white dudes for Harris. They're selling hats and shirts. Say white dudes for Harris. What would they do if there were a white dudes for Trump? How would they react on NBC and CNN? White dudes for Trump. It would be the most outrageous thing. They would be losing their minds. But these fellas, that's okay. White dudes. Why don't you just do what Charlotte did. Put on a dress and some earrings. White dudes for Harris. We don't have to get, it is embarrassing watching these guys sit there and just pretend that Kamala Harris is a good candidate, that they really like her. You know what's true now that was true a month ago? Nobody likes their candidate. Nobody thinks their candidate. This woman is a good candidate. No one thinks she'll be a good president. It doesn't matter. They have to stop Trump. No one's going to vote for Harris. They're going to vote against Trump, just like when Biden was president. But I'm telling you, she's worse. She's worse than Joe Biden. She's not a worse person. There's no one's worse person than Joe Biden, but a worse candidate. Every single position she's held in her entire public life is out there on the fringe, is weird, is out of the mainstream. There is nothing she has said or done that people, average Americans, would say, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's ban plastic straws. Let's ban fracking. Let's stop oil. Let's let men play women's sports. We'll give you a sample of that. But she does have a strategy, by the way. It's just change your opinion, change your position. When a Republican does it, they call it flip-flopping. When Kamala Harris does it, they call it evolving. She's evolved. She has literally, in the last week, changed many of her major positions, and the media's okay with that. She's cool. No, see, she doesn't really want to ban fracking. She changed her mind. Now she supports it, and they're okay with it. And we'll get to her positions and how she has flip-flopped on all her major positions, and the lies she's telling, and they're telling you on her behalf. It's incredible, but it ain't going to work. It's not going to work. I think you have to take a look at where she stands on every major issue, and it would be really bad for America. Again, 4 years of Kamala Harris would be the end of this country as we know it. And I think people will wake up over the next 98 days and say, we just can't afford 4 years of this weirdo Kamala Harris. We'll get to that. And Joe Biden, they let him play president yesterday. They let him go out there like a little Make-A-Wish kid and pretend to be president again. It was incredible. He wants to reform the Supreme Court, the only institution in the friggin' country the Democrats don't control, and they can't stand it. We'll tell you why that is just a pipe dream from the lamest of lame ducks. Not going to work. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
Before we get to Biden's press conference yesterday, and it was just, honest to God, they can't do this anymore. It was just uncomfortable to watch. He was stammering and lying. He told a story. It lasted 4 minutes about why he got into politics. It was just one lie after another. You know how you know? Because he kept saying, no joke, not a joke. I'm serious, which means he's lying. And it was just incoherent, to be kind. It was a mess. He was a mess. He is a mess. He can't do this. They can't let him play president much more in the next 4 months. It's just uncomfortable to watch. But I want to do the ads, because here's another thing that the Kamala Harris campaign can't do. They can't meme. They can't organize, and they can't do ads. They think we have two, right? We have two Kamala Harris or Kamala Harris PACs supporting Kamala Harris, two ads.
Yep.
Came out in the last couple of days. And they think this is going to work. They're going to tell you JD Vance is weird, but watch this and support Kamala Harris. Really? This, after the Olympic opening ceremonies, after all the madness we've seen in this country, culturally, they think this was a good idea. Check it out.
She can get bills passed in Congress that'll protect me and you.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, or LGBTQ.
She can get this country back to where we can stand tall, keeping us safe from harm without building a wall. 'Cause she's a woman.
No, she's not.
I'll say it again. She's a woman. Kamala.
That's two men and a woman. Can you guess which is which, Ironhead? Have you figured it out?
I think the far right is a woman or
Yes.
has a superior surgeon.
Right. Well, I think you're right. I think there's one woman and two men pretending to be women, mocking women. That's not some crazy, show or some crazy group of transgender supporters of Kamala. That's a group, a pack supporting Kamala Harris. That ad is supposed to get you to support her, to win you over. Drag queens dancing and singing about Kamala Harris. That was bad. This is worse. This, I believe, is an official Kamala Harris campaign commercial. And they got a bunch of guys pretending to be Trump supporters. This is the cringiest thing we've seen yet from Kamala. It's going to get worse because everything she does, everything is cringy. She is the most cringe-inducing candidate ever. And I know we've been playing you the sound for 3 years of her, talking about space and the passage of time.
Unburdened by what has been.
Unburdened by what has been, which she says all the time. The other problem they have, she's not smart. She's dumber than Biden. It's uncomfortable because she can't answer a simple question. We'll get to, and we got a great example of that. I think it's a new one. We played you, thousands of them, and we'll see them all for the next 98 days. If the Trump campaign is smart, they will be rolling out all the video of just the vapidness of this woman. It's striking. But this is an ad that, again, is supposed to get you to support Kamala Harris. These are actors pretending to be Trump supporters. Check it out.
Us MAGA Republicans banned abortion, but that's just the start.
That's just the start. If Trump gets elected, we want the government involved in all aspects of your sex life.
Way more involved.
Way more involved.
When you have sexual intercourse, it should be illegal to use contraception. No pills, no condoms.
Your genitals are reserved for procreation.
If you freeze 12 eggs, you should be required to have 12 babies, or else you're a serial killer. And I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Are you?
My son monitors my porn usage to make sure I'm not self-pleasuring.
Just like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. That's true. You can look it up.
Don't you think that's normal?
Yeah, I do.
It's normal for your son to do that.
You should have a family member monitor your porn use too.
Because pleasuring yourself is very, very naughty.
I'm voting in November.
I'm voting in November.
We're all voting in November. Are you?
Because what happens in your bedroom is up to me.
Is up to me and my son. Also, mouth stuff is a sin.
That JD Vance is weird. He's a weirdo. That's a Kamala Harris ad. Well, I don't even understand half of it. What are they talking about? About porn and masturbation and contraceptives? That's supposed to convince people to vote against Trump?
All they did in that ad is just show that they are more liberal than they thought. Because that's exactly what I imagine.
Trump's been president for 4 years. He was president for 4 years. His vice president was Mike Pence, a hardline, Christian conservative. I don't think they monitored your porn use or banned contraceptives. And it's a bunch of, if you're just listening, it's a bunch of just fat, sweaty guys. One of them looks like Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, and they're all sweaty and they're saying, we're going to monitor your porn use. What the hell are they talking about? Trump team, Trump surrogates are much better at memes. They're much better at social media, and they're better at making ads. I mean, they have a big disadvantage. They do not own the mainstream media. Kamala Harris does. That's a big advantage for Harris. And Kamala Harris owns big tech, as we've seen. Try getting on and searching for the photo of Trump after he was shot. That has been suppressed by Facebook and Instagram and Google. The big tech is not even hiding it. They are diving right back in and interfering in this election, just like they interfered in the last two. It's happening.
Facebook came out yesterday and admitted to doing that.
Yeah, they said it was an honest mistake, which is obviously a lie. All their honest mistakes favor one party over the other. and they're not going to stop. This is going to continue until November 5th. So get ready for major election interference from Kamala's friends in Silicon Valley. But this is a 30-second ad from Trump, and it's so much better than what we saw from Kamala Harris. Watch this.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
This is America's border czar, and she's failed us. Under Harris, over 10 million illegally here. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. Brutal migrant crimes. And ISIS now here.
Do you have any plans to visit the border? You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Kamala Harris, failed, weak, dangerously liberal.
Oh, that's good. See, that's the question that every Trump supporter surrogate has to ask. Do you want to continue what we've seen for 3.5 years? We've allowed anyone to walk across the border, drug dealers, gang members, terrorists. That will continue for 4 more years. We won't recognize this country. People have to wake up. You could say what you want about Trump. You can hate everything about him. Look at the policies. Look at the border. Look at inflation. Look at the economy and say, can we afford 4 more years of this madness? Joe Biden, for 3.5 years, has done everything to destroy this country. Every move he's made, every move the Democrats made has been to change this country, to fundamentally rebuild and reform and destroy this country. You want that for 4 more years? I can't believe any decent American can support that. Hell, vote for RFK Jr. if you want. Don't vote. I don't care. How do you vote for that? For another 15 million illegal aliens, which, as Liz Warren said, they plan to make citizens. They plan to make them voters. That's the goal here. They don't care about fentanyl, people dying from fentanyl, but they don't care about Laken Riley or Rachel Morin. They mean nothing. As Vance tweeted yesterday, Kamala Harris took the time to write a letter to Dylan Mulvaney, the guy, as we know, the Bud Light guy. And she hasn't written a letter to Laken Riley's family or Rachel Morin's family or met with them or apologized to them. She doesn't care about them. They are collateral damage. The goal, and this, you're looking at the borders are, the goal is an open border until we don't recognize the country, until they get enough new Democrats so that they will never lose another election. The policies, her policies, are wildly unpopular, and we've gone over them. You know, energy, you name it, open borders, energy, trans madness. Everything she believes in is antithetical to most Americans, but they're going to gaslight you and lie to you for 98 days and try to maintain power and continue this madness for 4 more years. It's frightening that tens of millions of Americans will vote to support that, will vote to continue to decimate communities with illegal aliens and crime and drugs and gangs. And as every expert, including Christopher Wray, has said, the threat level has never been higher. They've let in thousands of terrorists and Chinese nationalists who want to do us harm. You're going to vote to continue that? Just absolute insanity. All right, is this Kamala, when she's asked about a real issue, she actually takes a real question on a real issue, inflation. What will you do? How will you handle inflation? You know what the frightening thing here is? She doesn't know. She doesn't even have the ability, the capacity to lie, to spin, you know, to kind of to sell their alleged plan. She doesn't know what to say. She doesn't have a grasp of the issues. She's not smart enough for this job. Listen to this answer to a really good question. Go ahead.
The U.S. is experiencing record inflation, the worst in 30 years, way beyond expectations. OPEC didn't increase oil production. Can you tell us a little bit about how you would prevent the new spending in your Build Back Better agenda from exacerbating the problem? And also, what else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this.
Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously. But there is also a point that is important to make on the Build Back Better framework. One, it is designed to make it less expensive for working people to live. It's specifically designed to bring down the costs of childcare and increase.
Unbelievable. That is your candidate for president who can't even lie. Well, she doesn't know the answer. I mean, we've all seen it when you were in school and someone didn't know the answer and tried to fake it. That's what she is. She's just fake. Everything about her is so fake. There is no core conviction there. There's no deeply held belief. There's no substance. This is a woman without substance. Check this out from the New York Times. And they mention this matter-of-factly. This is them trying to help her deal with her unpopular opinions and positions. The New York Times writes, in addition to changing her position on fracking, which she just did because she has to win Pennsylvania, campaign officials said she now backs the Biden administration's budget request for increased funding for border enforcement, no longer supports a single-payer health insurance plan, and echoed Biden's call for banning assault weapons, but not a requirement to sell them to the federal government. This is a flip-flop of five positions she held 10 minutes ago. She no longer supports a ban on fracking. She no longer supports opening the border. She wants to increase funding on the border. She no longer supports a single-payer health insurance program. She wanted to eliminate private health insurance 10 minutes ago. And she no longer wants a buyback plan to buy back everybody's AR-15. Those are things she believed in before she became the candidate. She flip-flopped on all of them, and it earned her one paragraph in the New York Times, one paragraph explaining she's changed her position on everything. That's on that. It's not a story. It's not a big story. It's just a paragraph. Yeah, she changed her mind on everything. So when she debates Trump, she'll just say, oh, no, I support fracking. Yeah, I don't want to ban plastic straws or red meat. No, I don't want to give Medicaid to illegal aliens. No, that was old. That was then. I've changed. I've evolved. And they'll say, oh, isn't that great? She's evolved. She's seen the light. Imagine if Trump or Vance did that, just change their mind on everything. It's been a 3-day news cycle because J.D. Vance made fun of cat ladies, single women who support Harris. That's a big deal. That makes him a weirdo. But her changing her position on everything because they know when people get a closer look at her, when people understand just how radical she is, they understand that she was the most liberal member of the Senate, that she is a radical, far left extremist who hates this country and wants to fundamentally transform everything. They will run from her, and they can't allow that to happen. That is what we're seeing play out right now, and we're going to see it for the next 98 days. It is something to behold. She is just an empty suit, and they know it, and they have to lie. That's all they're going to do is lie to you for the next 98 days. Speaking of lying, we're going to get to Joe Biden's Make-A-Wish performance yesterday. They let him play president for a day, and it went about as well as you'd expect. We'll explain to you why this was just, the whole thing was just such ridiculous make pretend. That's what it was. Just pretend. Go out there, Joe, and pretend you're president for a day. And it didn't work. We'll get to that more, but first.
Excuse me.
Joe Biden got to pretend he was president again. By the way, there was a story about Kamala Harris yesterday being briefed on the war in Israel, the attack from Hezbollah on Israel, where Hezbollah murdered 12 kids on a soccer field. They said the State Department has briefed Kamala Harris. No mention of Joe Biden, but they've briefed the vice president. And hopefully, if she had a moment with Joe, she took it and explained to him what happened there. But Joe Biden, I mean, he's got gall. I'll say that. He has got chutzpah. He actually holds a press conference to talk about reforming the Supreme Court because that's the one institution he doesn't control. We know he controls the Senate, essentially. He controls the House because we have this ballless Mike Johnson. And he controls the media, Hollywood, big tech, academia. They control everything except the Supreme Court, and it drives them nuts that Donald Trump in 4 years got 3 appointments to the Supreme Court, and they don't rule in favor of the Democrats every single time. Sometimes they do, but they don't do it every time, and it drives them crazy. So this guy, I'll go over it briefly. He had 3 points. One was term limits. He wants to have term limits for the Supreme Court. Now, I'm generally in favor of term limits. This cadaver has been in Washington for 50 years. He was in the Senate for 35 years. He's never earned an honest day's pay outside of of politics. And he wants term limits for Supreme Court justices. How about term limits for senators? Would that make any sense? How about congressmen? Would you support that? God, no. But Supreme Court justices, because they don't do everything he wants them to do, he wants to limit them out of office. He wants to get rid of presidential immunity. Now, this is rich. I almost root for this because no one has committed more crimes in his time in office than Joe Biden. I would love him to lose his immunity. In fact, here's an idea, Joe. Why don't you set an example? Say, I will give up all my immunity from my time in office as an example to future presidents. And then they can come after him for his influence peddling schemes and other ways he's enriched himself and his family. And by the way, maybe then they could charge him for getting 13 service members killed at Abbey Gate and then drone striking a family of 10 to save face. Maybe he could face charges for that if he doesn't have presidential immunity. And the third thing is ethical reforms. He wants to make sure that Supreme Court justices don't take favors from supporters like private jets and vacation homes. No one takes more favors from supporters than Joe Biden. We see it all the time on Thanksgiving and Christmas. He's flying to private islands in Nantucket and on private jets, staying in homes of rich supporters, big mansions on the beach that he doesn't pay for. And he wants to make sure, Clarence Thomas doesn't take a vacation with a rich friend. This was the gall it took for him to do this was something to behold. And by the way, it has no chance of passing. He wants to amend the Constitution, which takes 3/4 of the states. I'm sorry, it has no shot. So this was just an exercise in power, in trying to demonize the Supreme Court for future administrations or for the public to say, look, the Supreme Court is out of control. They're undermining the democratic process. It's so absurd. This was so laughable, but he can't do it. He can't make a case. He's incapable. He has dementia. He is incapable of putting 3 sentences together, as we know. Again, he told a story that lasted for 4 minutes. He's told it before. It's one big lie about how he was in his hotel room with a towel on and shaving, and they came to his room and told him they wanted him to run for Senate. Completely made up. Just made up out of whole cloth, but he doesn't care. He doesn't mind telling the same lie over and over again, as we know. But let's just take a brief look at his performance yesterday in this silly exercise and allowing Joe Biden to pretend that he still has some kind of power. Go ahead.
And no president, no former president, not me, not one has and should have been given any exception to this.
Called himself a former president. He's staring right at the teleprompter, and he can't do it. He just can't get it to get the words out. We don't yet know if Joe Biden's going to campaign for Kamala Harris, which would be amazing because she led the coup. That's why the cover of New York Magazine, which has Kamala sitting on top of a coconut, and all these people cheering for her, the people cheering for her led the coup. And he's one of the people. Get that cover of New Yorker for me, Ironhead. I don't even understand it, but she's sitting on a coconut, and it says, "Welcome to Camelot." Camelot with a K. And one of the people cheering for her is him, Joe Biden. She forced him out. And New York Magazine, as most of the media, just are flat out lying to you, saying that somehow he's cheering the woman who forced him out, and the other people who are cheering are Schumer and Obama and Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries, who were part of the coup. This is incredible to look at. Look at this cover. She's sitting on top with her hands raised, smiling, and they're cheering. George Clooney, another one who led the coup, and there, right in the middle, is Joe Biden, the guy who wanted to stay in the race and was forced out when they threatened the 25th Amendment, which required the vice president's approval or support. And and what's with the coconut? I don't even get this. A coconut?
I think that's referring to her saying, like, do you think I fell out of a coconut tree or whatever?
Which was one of the dumber things she's ever said. What, did you just fall out of a coconut tree? And she starts laughing hysterically. By the way, her handlers are telling her, no more laughing. Don't laugh. So she's going to try to make it through this campaign without that cringy, just that annoying cackle. She's going to do her best, but I don't think she could pull it off. It is going to be wild. All right. I wanted to get to a couple other things. Do I have time to do this, Ironhead? Sure. I know it's important. It's really important. But the NFL has some new rules. We've already gone over the kickoff rule, which is bizarre. I don't get this. Maybe you can explain it to me. The NFL has a new rule. They're not going to allow onside kicks until the fourth quarter. And the team kicking the onside kick has to tell the other team that they're doing it. Now, this is just stupid on so many levels, but onside kicks, while they rarely work, are exciting, right? That's a real exciting play. They should make rules to make it easier to kick an onside kick, to try to kick a successful onside kick. Instead, they're going to ban it until the fourth quarter. Why, by the way? What's the logic? I never thought of onside kicks as really dangerous. They're not as dangerous as regular kickoffs because you don't have a full head of steam when you get to the ball. But they're banning them until the fourth quarter. And then you tell the other team, we're going to make an onside kick. How is that ever going to work? You can't pull it off unless you surprise them. That makes no sense. It really does. I mean,
if you have to tell the other team you're going to do it, you should be able to get a running start.
Right. I mean, they should find a way to make it easier to do an onside kick. They should try to find a way. It should be the goal when you're making rules. Make the most exciting plays more likely or more common, not less common. And again, it doesn't seem like a move that's going to make the game more safe, less dangerous. It just takes away a really fun play. They used to work more often, and when it works, it's really exciting. And they say, no more onside kicks and no more regular kicks. They got this whole stupid new rule for kickoffs. I don't get it, but I mean, I'll still watch, but I don't understand the logic behind this. All right. And I do, speaking of no logic, we're going to be watching this closely. There are two, we're not watching the Olympics closely. God knows nobody is, but I'm still hoping for rain and natural disasters, because this Paris Olympic Committee deserves the worst. But I can't believe in 2024 this is still happening. In the boxing, in women's boxing, there are two men competing, and they're good. They've won in the past. This is from ABC. Two female boxers at the Paris Olympics who were disqualified at the 2023 World Championships after being judged to have failed gender eligibility tests have complied with all the rules and will fight at the games. There are two men competing against the women in boxing. Now, again, the Olympic ceremony, it was a freak show. It was offensive. It was awful, but nobody got hurt. I mean, unless, the woman who played Jesus sat on them, nobody got hurt.
Just people's feelings.
I'm pretty sure the blue guy got out of it okay. Someone's going to get hurt. They're allowing two men to compete against the women, and they have won in the past. One of them, 28-year-old Lin Yu Ting of Taiwan, is a two-time world gold medalist. The other one, Aman Khalif of Algeria, he won a silver medal at the 2022 World Championships. These are gold and silver medal, I want to say winners, thieves. They've stole medals from women in the past, and they're going to be allowed to do it again this week. We get to see Khalif will fight on Thursday. Lin got a first-round bye as the top seed in his weight class. Will get his opening bout on Friday. So Thursday and Friday, we're going to see men fighting women in the Olympics. And hopefully the world will wake up and say, this is just madness. Again, you want to play whatever. You want to play some sport, play golf, pretend to be a woman or whatever, or track even. But this is a brutal sport. A man could hurt a woman, and that could happen this week at the Olympics. All right, before we go, let's do the most annoying woman in the world. Most annoying woman in the world. We introduced you to her yesterday.
Oh my God, yeah.
This is the leader of the white women for Harris. So we have white dudes for Harris and white women for Harris. Two different outfits, two different organizations. And she led the big Zoom call yesterday. And now we're finding more videos, more appearances, performances from her. Tell me this is not your typical Kamala Harris supporter. And I'll ask anybody out there who's, unsure of how they're going to vote or who they're going to support. You want to be on her team? This woman, I'm telling you, maybe I said yesterday, I can't imagine like there's some guy who's married to her or living with her. And maybe you're right. Maybe there isn't someone like that, because it's hard to believe anybody could spend 5 minutes with this woman. But here is, you're wondering who supports the radical extremist Kamala Harris? Here you go.
Hi, friends. It's time to share the Arctic now. Your turn is all done. Got it? I know you like when people share with you. Well, you need to share the Earth with everyone, plants, animals, and people. The White House had to take special action to protect 13 million acres of land in the Alaskan Arctic because the Arctic is a super special place. Yeah, people need gas for cars these days, but there are more respectful ways to do it. All taking things from super special places hurts nature. So let's turn your choices around and find ways to help the Earth instead. Did you know places like the Arctic need to stay cool to keep our planet the right temperature? When you protect places like the Arctic, you are helping keep the Earth cool. And touch your listening ears.
Oh my God.
Because you made sad choices. Now you need to stay in your area. And these 13 million acres of protected land over here are not for you anymore. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we know special places need to be protected, and we're all done taking up space that's not ours. Shine on for protecting our planet.
Oh my God.
There's no wedding ring, I've noticed.
Can you believe that J.D. Vance would make fun of her? What a weirdo. Oh, there you go. That is your typical Kamala Harris supporter. God help us. You know what? We got to keep monitoring her because she's the face of the Kamala Harris campaign. She's going to be out front. She's going to be holding these Zoom meetings and recruiting people and telling you how you shouldn't use plastic straws. God, good luck with that.
Absolutely disgusting.
I know, Ironhead, you've been probably on Tinder lately, right? What if you saw her? What would you do? Would you swipe left, swipe right?
I think I'd be celibate for the rest of my life if that's all there was.
Whatever it takes. But there you go. How dare JD fans make fun of her? Any cats in that video? You know she has cats.
I could smell them through the screen.
You could smell the cats through the screen. No question about it. All right. That will do it for today. I'm going to go watch the new leader of the Secret Service squirm. He's under the gun in front of Congress right now. We'll have that tomorrow, but we will leave it there for today. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Arnett. I'm Jerry Callahan. This is the Callahan